So I fired again, my second shot, and I could see the guy get up, and he turned, and I struck him. He went down, and then the other guy was still shooting, and I fired my third shot, and because I missed on my first shot, I moved over on my rifle and fired again. So I had 2 rounds in the air at the same time, but like seconds behind each other. The third one missed, and the insurgent stood up, and the 4th one hit him.
Cheers for coming on, Craig. And I seen your interview on Lad Bible, and it was like a quick 15 minutes, and it just run through dead quick, because I was like gripped by it. I thought, God, hell, 15 minutes. So I just thought I'd get you on, ask you a bit more questions about your life and how you got into the army. Because where I'm from, people either got in the army because like the parents were in the army, or you had meatheads that just went in the infantry to get some money. So how did you end up joining the army?
Basically, I lived in Cheltenham, and when I left school with no qualifications at all. I used to be the class clown, mucking around, you know. Didn't take too seriously, but I was a bit of a loner at home. I didn't, you know, when you're at school and after school you hang around with your mates and all that. Well, I went home because we had horses, and so my job was to look after the horses, and I've been riding since I was about 5 years old. And that was my job, riding horses in the morning, go home after school, finish doing the horses. And there was nothing in Cheltenham job-wise. And my grandfather said, why don't you become a farrier? You know, get a trade, become a farrier like. And I thought to myself, that's a good idea. And there was no one around the local area that was taking on apprentices. So I joined the Household Cavalry. And that's what I joined the army for, to become a farrier. But when I joined in the 90s, it was big handle-barred moustache farriers, like in the gym, metal bending, and if your face didn't fit, you weren't in. And because I suffer a bit of dyslexia, mine was more, you know, the tests I was doing, I never got into the forge, never managed to get in. So I went down the one track when, you know, whilst training and being in London, because you think I was a young lad, passed out, I did a year training in Purbright, the Guards Depot. I was the only Household Cavalry member in my platoon, so I was called the horse shagger and God knows what, because you know, and they were all rigid and everything. And I got to London. You get your first wage packet. Oh, fucking hell, I'm a weekend millionaire. I've never had this money before. I'm in London as well, you know. So I used to go out, you know, with so-called friends, and we used to get in drama, end up in fights and all that. But, you know, I was going down the wrong track. So they took me out of London and put me to Windsor. And that's where the green side is. That's where, you know, the scimitars and the armoured side is in Windsor. And I just flourished from there, you know, took me out of one hole and put me in another one.
Well, the thing with dyslexia back in the day, because I remember in school, if you were struggling, there was no like categories whether if you were struggling, you just thick class, wasn't it? Basically, everyone was in that class. If you had any troubles, thick. So I can remember that in the 90s myself. So if you were struggling with spelling, any sort of reading out like that, there was no help. There was no like, oh, any help from any teachers or out like that. So I can remember that back in the 90s.
Well, that's what I used to say to my wife, you know, back then, like mental health, PTSD, dyslexia, anorexia, anything like that wasn't a major thing. It was just you're weak, you know, man up, get on with it, you know, and you're dyslexic. No, you're not. You're like you said, you're just thick, you know. But now it's a major big thing now. People are looking after everybody now, and, you know, the horse is gone in it, the door's shut by the time you get to my age.
Well, a lot of the rugby lads I've talked to that struggle with mental health and things like that, and they said how much difference it is in the last maybe 10 years compared to the late 90s, early 2000s. There just wasn't, no one was really talking about it, whether like if you were at rugby or like yourself in the army and you said, I'm feeling a bit down, someone would probably say, take your Tampax out and get on with it. Do you know what I mean? That was a sort of reaction you would get. So I can see how you struggled at the start if you had any problems.
I remember all the tours that I've done, used to come back off tour, and there used to be a woman sitting in a room, and used to walk in there, and she'd go, "How do you feel?" You go, "Yeah, I feel all right then." "Okay, off you go." And then you go on leave for a month, with all the saved up on that tour after 6 months or 7 months, depends how long you've been out there. But now you get a thing called trim, like I can't remember what it's called, something trauma something, and they reckon it prolongs or cancels out PTSD. And if you've got a good regiment, it works. But if you haven't, it won't work.
How much training did you do before you went on your first tour? Because the lads I know that went to Iraq and things like that, they didn't seem to be in the army that long before they got sort of shipped out.
No, the first tour I did was Bosnia. Basically, you train, as soon as you train for 6 months or 7 months prior going on tour. So you're never at home, and you're just training. And they've stopped it now. I think you've got to be 18 or something to go on tour now. But it used to be lads 17 years old just going out there.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, when you come back, you depends how demand your regiment is. If your regiment's in demand and you're good at what you do, you bounce tours. So you do a Bosnia tour after a Bosnia tour, and then Kosovo kicks off, so you end up doing Kosovo, and then Iraq, and you end up just bouncing because you swap against squadrons and all that. And because your regiment, like I said, because your regiment's good, you end up doing all the tours like.
Well, it's weird because, like, lads when I knew that joined it, they have a dead weird sales pitch, don't they, for the army? It's like the places you go, the people you meet. It felt like an 18 to 30s club reps holiday they were sort of describing. And there isn't many young lads that are thinking, "Oh, I tell you what, I would love to go to Bosnia. I'd love to go to Iraq." Do you know what I mean? I always feel like they sell it a little bit weirdly on them adverts and things. Is that what drawn you in to travel the world as well?
That advert, "Where's Frank?" And he had got a windsurf on the beach.
That's what I mean. Like you think, what's this advert for? Oh no, it's for the army. They mention anything that's not dangerous, don't they? And leave out probably the main bit.
Bosnia was more peacekeeping. So you would go there to do peacekeeping. And don't get me wrong, now and again you're getting a bit of drama, but hardly any shots were fired. It's more, you're there to keep the peace. You do patrols, and you take it in turns to do patrols. You're mainly in the gym most of the time. Pump an iron and trying to eat, and then sitting watching telly and wait for your next patrol. And then obviously the threat level keeps going up. Then you had Kosovo, and that was straight in there. My regiment was the first into Pristina, and then the Powers came in, and the Gurkhas came in, and then Iraq kicked off, and then Afghan kicked off. And it wasn't the going in the gym all the time. You had to worry about IEDs. You had to worry about suicide vests that people are wearing. You had to worry about everything else. Bosnia, you get in a Land Rover and you just bomb around doing your thing.
Well, how do you become a sniper in the army? Is that something when you got in there you thought, "Oh, that's what I want," or do you have to work towards that to be a sniper? Because they're quite an elite skill, isn't it?
Yeah. Now snipering is more of an infantry role. So you get more of the infantry regiments that have got sniper platoons. Now, sniper platoon carries 16 blokes in.
Right.
And you work in a pair. Now, my regiment, because we're armoured reconnaissance and we work in Spartans and Scimitars, and we work in a full vehicle troop with the max of 12 guys, there's no need for snipering at all. But it's called Drac. He's the head of the RAC, the Royal Armoured Corps, and he said that snipering can be a part of the Armoured Corps now. So I jumped on that bandwagon straight away. I remember being in Iraq, and I went up to this stadium in Alamara, and there was a Royal Irish sniper on the roof, and I was just up there, taking in the view, and I got talking to him, and do you know what? He didn't break his position once, didn't take his eye away from the scope, and I thought, and he got treated differently. He got treated like a bloke, He didn't get treated like a kid like you do sometimes in the army. And I thought to myself, that's what I want to be. So when you come off tour, you have career briefings, and they say, well, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? And I say, well, as well as doing my crew commanders or signals and all that, I want to be a sniper. So I was one of the first in my regiment to become a sniper.
How important is it, because you work in twos, don't you? How important is it to have a good partner with snipering? Is it, do you keep the same partner, or do you mix and match, or is it the same one right through your career?
I kept my same partner. He is a top bloke, top bloke, you know, and he knew me behind the rifle, and I knew what he was like behind the rifle, you know. And you get the number 2, and he will be the better shooter.
Right.
He will know the wind, know your calculations, and he'll transfer that onto your scope, and you take the shot. Well, me and my number 2, we're both the same. You know, we both had rank on us, you know, and we were good together and we worked. And I trusted him. Specifically, you know. I could trust him to take his eye off the scope and go on to something else, and I can carry on doing something else, you know, and he'll give me the right information and I'll give him the right information, and we're still good friends now.
And the thing I didn't realise was, when you're doing sniping, you don't move out of that place for days on end. How do you manage going like 3 or 4 days without moving out of that spot?
It's hard. Now, it used to be you must be sustainable in the field for 48 hours, so on your own for 48 hours. But I think they've upped it now to 72 hours without support. And when you're working as a pair, the positions you get in are quite weird, you know, to keep your legs moving. Because after you get up, after not moving for 4 days, you end up falling over and things like that. So there's little exercises that we used to do to keep our legs, you know, keep the blood flowing in our legs and all that. And plus, because we're on the ground, we used to get so cold at night as well. But it's all to do with mental discipline, you know, and it seems weird, but having a strong family, if that makes sense, because that's what keeps you going up here. Yeah. You know, having a good family, having a good wife behind you, everything in your mind will keep you on the ground longer, because you know you're good at what you do.
And the toilet situation, that's the bit that I just can't get my head around that. How could you go to the toilet if you're lying there for 4 days? Do you just go in your pants, or do you just?
Yeah, you just go for a piss. Before you lie down, you crawl in the position, and you would make a trough. So where your groin is, you'd make a trough all the way down past your legs, and you kick it with your heel, so it's deeper than you are, so you can pee in it, and it will go down. But mainly it just, you know, soak up the material. But it's funny, because the rations you get are designed to clog you up. They're designed to make you constipated. High in calories, but they constipate you. So, and then you try and keep hydrated, but not as much as you would like a normal person would. And your body will train like that. You'll get used to it, not taking in much water, and you won't be pissing as much either. So, yeah.
But the odd time, I can imagine you had to go for a number 2. That's bound to be worse than the having a pee or something like that. I can imagine if there's 2 of you there as well, does that just get awkward, or you just that used to it by then?
You get used to it. The first time's a bit awkward, you know, but you have a little Tupperware tub, a bit of cellophane, and you roll over, you go for your poo, you roll back over, and my number 2, or if I'm looking after him, I'll deal with it. I'll wrap it up, put it in the Tupperware tub, and put it back in my bag, because it's important to take everything away from you. Because if we were getting chased by the enemy, or insurgents were coming up, they can tell you what our morale's like. You know, they look at my feces and go, yeah, his morale's pretty high, he's eating well, he's hydrated, you know, we need to watch out for this guy. So it's important to take everything away with you.
Right. I didn't know that. It's just all things. It's just amazing, isn't it? For someone looking in, I just find it fascinating. I remember the American Sniper come out, all the little details. I can remember like Googling them and stuff like that, and to find out it's all true is just insane. To lie there for 4 days. And what was it like the first time you pulled the trigger and killed the first person from distance from a sniper?
600 and I think it was 25 yards or 75 yards, but I felt like I was in trouble, you know, because you've killed someone, and you feel like somebody's going to tap you on the shoulder and go, you know, can we have a quick word with you, mate? You know, but after a while it subsides because it's your job, and once you have that, it sounds a bit wrong, but once you've had that first kill under your belt, the second one, third one, and the fourth one becomes more of a job, you know, than anything else.
And with the distance, that's a bit I was finding. How do you measure the distance? So is that because of your sight you can do the distance? So like they'll say like this is how far I killed him from, because I can't imagine you get the tape measured out or anything like that.
You have before you go on tour or before you go into the field, you'll have you would range your rifle, and you would go from 100 meters all the way to 1,000 yards, and from there you have dope, and dope means data of previous engagement, and you'll have everything written down, and it's called world lifetime information. So everything down, and you'll have a picture of a human being. And that human being, you'll have the height of that human being. And in your scope, you'll have crosshairs. And each crosshair on each side of it has got things called mil dots. And
Right.
you have 4 on one side, 4 on the other, 4 going up, 4 going down. And in between, it's just a straight line. But you have to imagine in your head that there's 8 mil rads, which is half of a mil dot. And it gets complicated. And then you put it on the guy, and you realize how big the guy is, and then you times it by 1,000 of the mil dots that you're on. So if I was looking at him and he was like 2.5 mil dots, I would times it by 1,000 and divide it by his height, and it would give me the distance to where he was.
They're the bits that I see. And when you said it's infantry, you feel like you need a maths degree to be a sniper. Do you know what I mean? Taking all these things into consideration, because on the long shots as well, you've got to take the world moving as well into consideration. Like these aren't things you would expect someone in the infantry just to pick up and be able to do.
Yeah, so don't get me wrong, everyone's got like think infantry lads are solid, you know, they're just frontline gun fodder. But some of the lads are all right, and majority of infantry lads make it into SF. You know, and that's a massive step. But when you do your sniper course, it's 9 weeks altogether, and you don't finish till about 11 o'clock at night, because you're doing classroom work, you're doing maths, you're doing, you know, you're doing your divisions, you're making that little booklet up with all your lifetime information. So you go out and you measure a wheel of a car, you measure a brick, you'll measure a window, you'll measure a door, you know. So if the bloke's slightly, all you can see is a torso in the head, at least there's a door next to him, and you know how big that door is, and you just do the calculations on that door, and you'll hit that guy.
Because you've got the longest shot. I think it was like 1.5 miles, wasn't it? Like 7 rugby fields. Like, to me, looking at that, I don't know how you even seen the person, never mind shot them. How did that shot come about? Because I seen on the interview that you sort of had to lob it in, so it's not even a straightforward shot. You've got to sort of make arrangements as you're going along.
Yeah, that was not too long into my second Iraq tour, and I went into Afghan tour, and I went into this village, and it was overrun by Taliban insurgents, and there was a patrol going into that village, and we could spot them going in, and the patrol going in was a mixture of Afghan army and British soldiers, and the British soldiers were teaching the Afghan army how to patrol, you know, how to do fire manoeuvres and all that. And as I was moving in, they were going into a kill zone, which is an open place, which is easy for the Taliban or the insurgents to open up on them. Well, when I was on the wall, I saw a glint in the distance, and it was a guy with an antenna on a radio. And I had an interpreter with me who had a thing called an ICOM. And an ICOM is basically a radio that's tuned in to the Taliban frequency. So you can hear them talking, and the interpreter translates to you. And I thought, well, I need to do something here. So I leant on the wall, a big wall, and I fired my first shot, and obviously it went small. It went low. And I kept firing and firing and firing. I did 9 shots in the morning, and I hit the compound wall, and I could see the guy duck down. And I thought, right, that's where I am looking. Well, anyway, as the day went on, the patrol went into the kill zone, and they got contacted. We call it a TIC, troops in contact, and they were getting hit pretty hard, and they had nowhere to go, hence why it's called a kill zone. So we sent vehicles down, 3 vehicles down, to cut off the kill zone between the insurgents and the patrol so they can get out of Dodge. And that went well. I did my job with the insurgents. And as my vehicles were coming back, they got stuck in this field, and they were just wheel spinning. And I looked to my right, and I realised there was an insurgent there, and he knocked one of the heads off the water for the irrigation fields, and he flooded the irrigation field, and it was like a quagmire. And next thing I saw was like little spatters going everywhere, and I could hear gunfire, automatic gunfire. So I looked everywhere that I engaged an insurgent. I was looking. No, where is this shot coming from? And I could see flashing in the distance, and I looked up, and it was just where I fired the 9 shots in the morning. So I knew where I was looking in my scope. And as I looked up, I fired my first shot, and it missed. I saw it splash onto the just in front onto the wall, on the compound wall. And they were, if the compound wall was like that, they were just on the side here. And they were firing a PKM, which is a Russian belt-fed machine gun.
Yeah.
So I fired again, my second shot, and I could see the guy get up, and he turned, and I struck him. He went down, and then the other guy was still shooting, and I fired my third shot. And because I missed on my first shot, I moved over on my rifle and fired again. So I had 2 rounds in the air at the same time, but like seconds behind each other. The third one missed, and the insurgent stood up, and the 4th one hit him. And and then we heard a noise behind us. It was an Apache, and he come right low, and I could see the pilot, and I just indicated where we were getting engaged from, and he GPS'd it, and it was 2,475 meters, which just over 1.5 miles, which my rifle is only meant to go 1,500 meters. That, you know, it's not designed to go that far. And my record's been beaten now. You know, the Canadians beat it, but they used a 50 cal, and a 50 cal can go 4Ks plus. So,
right.
You know, but I still have it for the smaller caliber sort of thing, you know. But I didn't know my record until I came back off tour, and it was all a big thing. Apparently, it all kicked off. So,
well, I was reading up online as well about the released your name as well, which is quite a dangerous thing to do, because in every war, the snipers are seen as like, they put bounties on the heads, don't they? The American sniper guy, Chris Kyle, had a bounty on his head. That kind of been a good idea to say, oh yeah, Chris has got the record, and people can easily find where you live and think, especially in this day and age with the Taliban and that targeting different countries. How did you feel when your name was sort of getting bandied about? Were you comfortable with that?
Not really. It got leaked to the media because we said, will it get censored? And it never got censored through London District Media Ops, and it went straight to print. So my wife's name was on there, my daughter's name, where I, you know, what regiment I was in. It's not, doesn't take brains of an archbishop to realise where your regiment's stationed, you know, and all my picture came out and things like that. So yeah, it was a bit of a nightmare. But it was shit times.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It to me, it's just be scary because it's one thing you being in Iraq. You're a brave guy. You're doing your job. But I think when you interfere with your own family and things at home, I think that's when it gets that little bit more real, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? For like probably a bit more scared, like hope they don't do anything, especially with identity and things like that. And like you say, it doesn't take a rocket science these days to find someone or where they live and things like that.
Well, we went into hiding for 3 years. So
Right.
After I left the army, and it's funny, my wife's got a sixth sense. Tanya's got a sixth sense, and she always knows when something's wrong. And when she opened the papers that day, and it was all in the papers, she said, "This isn't right. This isn't right." And everyone was telling her to relax. You know, this has happened. You know, enjoy it while it lasts. You know, because it'd be tomorrow's chip paper the next day. And she was right. Yeah, people should have listened to her as well, because I was struggling by then up here, you know, and yeah, it wasn't right at all.
When did your struggle start? Is that right after your first tour, or was it after a few tours it just started just getting to you after a while, or is it just right even from when you were younger?
Tell you what, it happened. I got blown up on my last tour, and I did my shot, and then 3 weeks later I got shot in the helmet, and it knocked me out for about 20 seconds. I was in a massive contact and it knocked me out. My wagon got rinsed with rounds, and I remember that day up to the point where I got shot in the helmet, and I can't remember anything. My driver was in the footwell, and he remembers everything. And then 3 days after that, I got blown up by a 30-kilo anti-tank mine. It blew my vehicle up, hit the driver's side. My driver wore most of it, and I broke my arms, my hips were affected, and because I got hit on the right side again, which is damaged my brain. I had a TBI, it was traumatic brain injury. And then I went back to England. They put me in casts because my arms were broke. I broke my wrist, scaphoid, and radius in both arms. They took me out of plaster 6 weeks later, and they redeployed me. They made me do 10 press-ups on the floor in the doctor's office. And then 4 days later, I was back on the front line. And then I wasn't right. I didn't feel right. And I felt that explosion, everything that I was holding back for all the tours that I've done, you know, suck it up, you know, just get on with this, shattered. It just blew up and shattered. And every emotion that I've seen through Kosovo, through my Iraq tours, through my Afghan tours, and I couldn't control it, you know, and I was in so much pain with my head, with migraines, my wrists were hurting. And every time I went to see the doctor, he was going, "No, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine." You know, it's just the stress of the tour. And I was taking raw painkillers, trying to sort my head out. And that's when I noticed I wasn't right, you know, especially they deployed me onto this ridge line at this southern side of Helmand province. And I was there for 4 days on the ground on my own. And I had support, which is about 1,000 yards away, but I was on my own in this place. I didn't even, my number two wasn't with me. And I wasn't right. I wasn't right at all. And then I came off tour. My wife spotted it first through isolation, through argumentative. I was angry all the time. Sex drive had gone. Everything was just destroyed, and I was just a shell of a person. And my wife noticed it first, and then the army noticed it, and then 23 years, half an hour to get kicked out.
Is that all it? Like, it's so bizarre. You feel like they would have things in place, and they should spot these signs a little bit earlier. And anyone that's depressed, the worst thing you can be is alone. Never mind alone in a war zone, if that makes sense. You were there for 4 days. It was probably the worst thing that could have happened to you at the time if you're going through them feelings.
Well, my wife's my rock, and all I wanted to do is talk to her. You know, because we have sat phones. All I wanted to do is talk to her, because I call it having a wobble. If I have a wobble, my wife's there for me. You know, and that in them 4 days were probably the longest days ever, and I had no way of. I had to suck it up. You know, and it was horrible. I was having flashbacks. When I was looking through the scope, I was having images. You know, and it was just horrendous.
When you got them 2 times when you got blown up and hitting the helmet, were they the closest times that you came to like real danger when in your tours, or was there other times when you just thought, I just don't think I can remember I think it was Andy Reid we had on, great guy. He stood on an IED. He lost his leg, lost his arm, and he said for that split moment you're a bit like, I think this. Maybe, you know what I mean? You start getting these terrible images. He's such a positive guy, brilliant bloke. Is there any time where you just thought, I just don't think I'm going to make it out of here?
There's one incident that that me and my number 2 were in the green zone, and we were by this compound, and we were so thick in this bush, and the Taliban walked past us, and I was like, fucking hell, you know, all they had to do is look to the left and they would have seen us, because we were hugged up. You know, I'm 6'4". I couldn't make myself more smaller if I tried, you know, and they walked straight past us, and then they stopped by the compound entrance and started talking, and me and my number 2 were just, you know, hugged up, trying not to be seen, not to, you know, and it's hard because you got a runny nose, you can't sniff, you can't swallow, you can't do anything, because you just don't want to get, you know, that was probably one of the most arse-twitching moments, you know. But I think me getting shot in the helmet was worse than getting blown up for me. An inch lower, and I wouldn't be here now.
That's what I mean, like, stuff like that's bound, like that. I'm not surprised you've got things on your mind. Things like that, you think, oh, an inch close. It's sometimes like if people overtake a car and the car's coming the other way, you think, God, I timed that wrong. And it plays on people's minds that. I couldn't imagine being in a war zone and having these things going on. So to get through it, you've done brilliantly, just to carry on and things like that, and just to do each day sort of thing.
It's a struggle. I'm not going to lie. It's a struggle, and yeah, there's days that I've been close, you know, just checking out, you know, and there's many days that I've argued with my wife and said, you're the selfish one, and I've blamed her, you're the selfish one, and she's gone, what? And my daughter was with her, and I said, you're the ones that are keeping me in this world, you're the ones that are keeping me, you're the ones that are selfish, because everyone says like taking your own life or is all the coward's way out, it's selfish and all that. And we were talking about something, and then it came up, and I said, you're the selfish ones for keeping me here, you know, and good job she is selfish, because I'm still here.
Well, I've been talking to your wife via email. She seems like a lovely person and things like, she couldn't be nicer, do you know what I mean? And to do what you do sort of thing, she must be a real rock, especially when you're in Iraq and things like that. And do you think you would have came back, or do you think you'd be here if it wasn't for your wife?
I wouldn't be here now, no, without a doubt. Yeah, there's 2 things that ever stop me. One, my wife, my dog, they keep me on this planet. And secondly, infect. Somebody's got to find you. And that's what stays in my mind. Somebody's got to find you. So if I went out and hung myself, or went out and shot myself, or went out and took an overdose, somebody's got to find you. And then you've infected them with your PTSD. And they'll be next. And it'll be an ever-decreasing circle of people killing themselves because of me, my fault. So my support with my wife, you know, keeps me on this planet, and then don't infect anyone, do I?
Well, a lot of the sportsmen that have had similar sort of things, similar sort of feelings about suicide and things like that. I was talking to Eddie Hall, the strongman. He went through it when he was younger. We talked about it loads when we weren't on stage and things like that. And he always finds if he hasn't got any goals and things like that. He said he's got too much time on his mind. He said if he isn't focused on, like, he done strongman, he wanted to be world's strongest man, succeeded. And then after that, he was like, I don't need money, but I'm still not happy. And then he set himself another goal of being an actor and things like that. And same with his training things. He said if he wasn't training and didn't have goals, he said he said he's in a mind of just sort of hurt. Are you similar now? You set up the Maverick survival training and things like that. Is that what keeps you going? Just them little goals each time?
Yeah. Well, one, I've always been into my fitness. So I train about 4 o'clock in the morning. I get up and I train, and
Right.
I do as much as I can because I have got ailments and injuries, so I can't do much, but I do enough to make me feel good about myself. And also the survival school, which for all my 23 years in the army, learning stuff, doing courses, survival courses, and I want to give it back to people that are suffering. And I'm lucky enough to have access to because of woodland, and I want people to come down and learn survival, relax, chill out for the weekend, and just forget about what they're going through, and talk and have a talk, and that's what I want to do. And the survival school means a lot to me, because I believe there's not enough out there for people with PTSD. Now, I've gone through loads of charities, and it makes me sick because I see people do sponsored walks for them, to go running marathons with the logos on, and I'm thinking, what's the point? They don't help you. And if I can give a little bit back to help people, not just service people, probably civilians as well with PTSD, I've achieved my goal, and that will give me a purpose. Because at the moment, mine is purpose. I have a purpose. If I have a vision to go forward, I don't think about the bad things.
What will you have on the survival weekend? Is it going to be like SAS, who dares wins on TV, where you're going to say, right, get down, give me 20, hitting them in the face and things like that? Or is it going to be more like you said, the more mental health side of things and a little bit of fitness thrown in?
What it is, you tip up, and basically it's going to be structured as you would if you were stuck in a wilderness somewhere. So you'll build shelter, you'll build fire, and then you've got to find food. So it'll be all set out in different scenarios when you go through it, like making spears, making snares and traps, catching the animal, skinning it, cooking it. So you're learning the whole scenario. So if you ever were in that situation, hopefully not, you know what to do, straight away. And it'd be chilled out. I take it as the pace, as the person. So if they, if I say be here at 8 o'clock and they're at it, and they tip up at 8:30, I'm not going to go nuts at them.
Well, with anything like that, you're going to have a mix of people, aren't you? You're going to have people that are going to be like, probably, I can imagine there'll be people that, some weird lads will probably do it as a stag do. See if we can survive the survival weekend. You'll have a mixture of them rich people that just want to say they can survive, and you'll have the people who are just absolute nuts that are bang into the army side of things, but never joined, always wanted to, but never joined, just sort of getting them survival skills.
Well, what I want to do is teach 1-to-1 or 1-to-2 ratio.
Right.
Basically, when you go on courses, I find that there's 10 people on the course and there's one instructor, and his attention's on with somebody else and you're down there, and you don't get the 1-to-1 interaction with the instructor. Now, if I was there with 2 of you, you're going to learn more because I'm interacting with you more, and that's what I'm going to base it on, Right. And yeah, businessmen are more welcome to come along, to try themselves out, but it's not going to be a lick out where you're going to get beasted all the time or you're starving. Or I'm going to provide everything for you. All you're going to need is a sleeping bag and a wash kit, and if you want to have your own tent, bring your own tent, but there'll be one provided. So everybody, you haven't got because no one's got the money to buy all this survival stuff or buy tents or buy everything. So I'm trying to provide everything for that person to come down and not feel stressed because he's got a nice sleeping bag, kip in there, mate, you know, and I'll crack on with the lessons. And that's the whole idea, you know.
Well, it's weird because we're living quite a soft world at the moment, don't we? Like before I did this, I made sure the heating was cracked up so I didn't get a chill. Well, you know what I mean? Like we live in I used to play rugby, and now I don't think I can leave the house unless I've got a jacket on, things like that. I used to be able to play rugby in shorts, t-shirt, and it didn't bother us. And I feel like you just get tougher the more you put your body through, and the less you put it through, you become a bit more pampered, don't you? A bit more like, oh. So I think it would be good for a lot of people to do that little bit different, and it tests your cell a little bit more, doesn't it, as well? Think, oh, well, maybe I'm not as soft as I think I am. I can do these things. I think it would be popular.
Yeah, hopefully it would do good, you know, and you get a certificate afterwards saying you've attended the Maverick Survival School, you know, and if you want to go further, I can take you further. But it'd be like, I'll do weekends, I can do days, I can do half a days. You know, all depends what that person really wants, and I'll structure it around that person. If he wants to do army tracking or just making fires, I would do that for them, you know, and making charcoal and everything to do with survival. That person's in charge, really, you know, and I'll work with that person as an instructor.
Yeah, I think you'll find it'll be popular as well, because I think a lot of people would like to spend time with you, to pick your brain of what you've been through and think. I think that would be a lot of it like, I'll get to spend a weekend with Craig, I'm going to ask him this. Because before I did this, I was saying to my girlfriend, I was like, oh, I'm going to ask this, I'm going to ask that. And I think there'll be a lot of men like that. I'll just be like, this guy, like, it's sort of that alpha male thing. I know it's not popular now to say alpha male, but you're a big guy, sniper. It's sort of like what a lot of people would like to be if they had like the alter ego sort of thing. I think a lot of guys will just come and they'll just be like, oh, Craig, how did you do this? How did you manage that? And you probably spend the weekend just talking about all the things that you've done in the past as well.
Yeah, it's good because since I've done Lads Bible, the amount of men that have opened up to me about their mental health issues is absolutely fucking phenomenal, you know. And do you know what? I've answered every single one I've answered. And some of them are so shocked that I've answered them.
Yeah.
You know, because you get people that have got Instagram who just go, yeah, there's all my followers, and they write to them. They don't. I've answered every single one of them. It must be over 2,000 people that I've answered, you know, and I've spoke to, and you know, to keep them strong. And they've all said they want to come along and do stuff. And me, I'm just me.
Yeah,
I am just, you know, I'm sure if you're in the shit on tour, you had a rifle, you would defend yourself, and you would defend a friend of yours. You would do exactly the same thing, you know, because it's in our nature to do that. You know, and no one's special, no one's superhuman. It's what you do at the time. And I was lucky enough to do what I've done, you know, and now I want to give it back to other people, you know. So I'm just me. I'm just Craig Harrison. That's all I am.
But it in a way, you probably don't realise how many people, like you say, how many people message you. If someone like yourself can talk about, I'm not feeling right, I'm something isn't okay, it gives other people that option to think, well, I was going through the same thought, and you're like the alpha male type, tattoos, muscly, gym, sniper in the army and things like that. And if you can say you're not okay, it gives people who've got a general job, they don't have to be like in the army or anything like that, they can say, well, if he can say it's not okay, it's all right for me to maybe tell my wife I'm not feeling right and things like that. So you probably don't realise how many people you'll affect with the videos that you do.
Probably, you know, there's the ones that have watched it, and I probably won't know beyond that, but majority of people have made their wives watch it and saying, this is how I feel.
Yeah,
you know, and they're thanking me, and it's quite overwhelming, you know, because like I told you, I'm just me. Me. And it's funny, since the First World War or the Second World War, them guys never opened up about anything. And it's true that you'll get 1,000 people from the Second World War, and 10 to 5% of them would have actually seen action. The rest would have been medics, stretcher bearers, carrying ammunition, fucking keeping their heads down. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that 10%, you know, people can relate to that, and you know, it's just, yeah. Well, where I was going with that then.
The army obviously wasn't always bad. Have you got any good memories from the army? Like, do you look back and have you, like, the guy who you worked with, some of the friendships you make? There's a lad I know, and every year, the regiment he was in, the meet up at Blackpool. I don't know why Blackpool, but the meet up at Blackpool, have a night out, talk about old time. Do you still keep them friendships from the army?
Just my number two, my mate. I don't speak to hardly anyone. You know, it's just very bitter the way things ended, you know, and yeah, very bitter.
Would you have any advice for any young lad that was going in the army? Like, just say there's a young lad who's 16, 17 now, and he's thinking, I tell you what, I just really fancy the army. Is there any sort of advice you'd give him, maybe like before you go in, look at this or do that?
Get a trade.
Yeah.
I recommend. Amount of people that I've spoke to and said that they want to join the army. You know, we want to join the infantry. We want to do this, and I say, well, join the engineers.
Yeah.
Well, as engineers, you can have the airborne section, you can have the special forces section. You learn how to do carpentry, bricklaying, dry heavy machinery, make stuff. And when you leave the army, you've got that under your belt. And you don't have to pay for anything, and you can set up your own business when you leave the army, you know, or becoming a plumber, bricklayer, or whatever. And I say, just get a trade.
Yeah, because a friend of mine, I used to do recruitment for a very short while, and they give me his CV, come out the army, and he was a tank driver, and that's a great skill to have. But in England, it's probably not that needed, is it? Do you know what I mean? So he'd come out, he'd done 4 years as a tank driver infantry, and it just didn't transfer to really anything else. So getting a trade is probably the best advice.
Exactly, is get a trade. You know, the work I do at the moment is perfect for me. You know, I just work in a factory, and I'm happy with it. And they work around my PTSD, which I'm more than happy with. But if I took my CV to Tesco's, you know, yeah, done 23 years in the army, I've done 10 tours, I was a sniper. All right. Yeah, that's it. No, I'll never get the job because any money they sell was overqualified.
Yeah. Do you think that, would you ever be happy if they made a film about your life? Because the Chris Carl film was hugely popular. Is it something you'd think, oh, I wouldn't want that? Or if you think, oh, I would have that. And who would you want playing you? That would be the main bit. Who would you want to be the guy playing you?
My wife says Tom Hardy, so she can play
Tom Hardy'd be good, yeah. Yeah, he'd be able to get the size like he did Bane and Brosnan, Pierce Brosnan.
Yeah, but do you know what? I'd like that because I'd put a lot of people straight about the whole story, about my world record shot, about my condition, about what I used to get up to in London and stuff like that. It put a lot of people straight, you know, and then I'll be going, here we go, I told you, that's what it's all about. You know, because I wrote a book, and that was, God, when did I write that?
So 2015, wasn't it? Something about then.
Yeah, I wrote a book, The Longest Kill. And I tell you what, people loved it because it was about my childhood. It was about my life and time in Knightsbridge, to the armoured side, to being a sniper, the tours. And it was all broken down like that, you know. And yeah, so I wrote that book to pick people wrong. And I wrote another one. And this book's about mental health. And it's about my mental health. And it's about my suicide attempts. And it's about, I write in a book, and this book's got some vile stuff in it that I write all my anger out in, you know. And it's got some book in there. And do you know what? No one would touch it. Not one publisher would touch it because it's too raw. It is too raw for somebody to, because no one does that. And do you know what? No one's done the wife's point of view either. You know, of the other hand, yeah, I've got serious PTSD, but no one to talk to my wife. You know, and she needs to write a book, I think.
That's the thing people don't realise. It's obviously really hard for yourself, but it's hard for your wife as well, because the person they love, all they want them to be is happy, isn't it? And it's hard for them because all they'll try and do the best they can, and that people don't realise how tough that'll be.
Yeah, it is hard. It is hard. You know, many times I thought she's going to leave me. You know, not because of her, because of me being the way I was, but she's a tough cookie. But I've seen lads that are suffering and their wives have left them, you know, and they've been on their own. I've seen lads that have come off tour and they've gone into their house and the house is empty. There's nothing left in the house, you know, but my wife stayed with me and she's strong as an ox.
Well, it's good that you've got the future mapped out. If you're working in a factory now, I honestly think in the next year or something that it'll just go bigger and bigger. I don't think you'll be working in a factory for that much longer. I think you'll probably do the one-on-one tours and things like that. People will pay a fortune to go on these things. And I don't think you'll realise how many people just want to spend time with you. Because when I watched that 15-minute clip, I was like, oh, I need to know more about this guy. And I think I had to look on Lad Bibles, had like 1.5 million views in a space of like a week, hasn't it? So that's only going to get bigger. And it's got that many views because it's such an interesting story, isn't it? It's not just I joined the army, this is what happened. You joined the army, nearly died, sniper and post-traumatic stress and things. It's a hell of a story, isn't it? And they try to cram it into 15 minutes. And I think most people probably think, oh, I just want to find out more.
Well, when I spoke to Lads Bible, they said they got more on the cutting room floor that went out. And they said what's left on the cutting room floor, they're going to send 2 more videos out in February.
Right.
Just keep an eye out for them of my interview, because I was in there for an hour and a half talking and just talking. And they squished it down to 14 minutes, 15 minutes. And I have been speaking to them, and there's more in the pipeline.
Well, I was going to say that book that you don't think is going to get published. It's amazing how many publishers will step forward when you start getting the views and that's many people interested. The same people that maybe said, "Oh, we don't want to do it," but like, actually, we've read that again. That does sound interesting. That.
Yeah. I hope so, because it gives. Hopefully, my wife will do a chapter. No, hopefully she. And then. Yeah, it'd open a lot of doors. It'll open, not a lot of doors, but it'll open a lot of minds. Think, fucking hell. You know, more has to be done than we're doing now, you know, because it's nothing's getting done. And I'm a witness to it. I have been 5 charities that specialise in veterans and PTSD. Waste of time. I'm too complex. And do you know what I do now? I pay out of my own pocket to go private.
Right. And do you notice it? Has it got any better in the last couple of years? Does it get better in time? Or do you think maybe with doing the Lad Bible stuff and doing your own survival thing, that'll be probably your solace sort of thing? It'll get better as you go on?
I want it to get better. You know, I want it to get better and I want to feel better. I want me back. I feel I've been robbed with this PTSD, and this PTSD's taken over. And don't get me wrong, some days I lay there in bed in the morning and I think, what the fuck am I doing? What is my purpose here? You know, and then my wife would come in, she goes, come on, this is it. You know, come on, this is your purpose, I'm your purpose, come on, get up. And, you know, and that's how much of a rock she is. But, yeah, sad.
No, well, I've taken up enough of your time, Craig. You've been absolutely fantastic. I was so interested in doing this, and I'm interested in doing that weekend, but we'll have to get central heating in the tent just to keep me warm.
The tent will have a little log fire in there. So
yeah, as long as we've got a log fire and we can get a takeaway, we'll get the real experience going. But Craig, cheers for your time. Thanks a lot.
Always, thank you.